This video is brought to you by Squarespace. Sasori of the Red Sand is an Akatsuki member shrouded by mystery. In this video, we're gonna be exploring Sasori's hidden story before he joined the Akatsuki. We have to start when Sasori was actually a ninja in the Sand Village like any other, but he was a very accomplished puppet master, as you would think. Though his dreams and aspirations, if you could even call it that, were never in his village. No, he was more interested in experimenting with his living puppets. He was able to acquire several of those during the many battles he endured against many villages and clans. We can even see that Sasori acquired an Uchiha puppet, but he yearned for a more powerful puppet, the ultimate art that he could produce that would withstand the trials of time forever, and that would be his own Kazekage. The third Kazekage was the most powerful Kazekage ever. He was able to use the Iron Sands, an ability never seen before that granted him extremely powerful capabilities. Sasori wanted that power for himself through a puppet, so he made a plan to assassinate his own Kazekage. It wasn't easy. Sasori took months to prepare everything. He had to make sure the Kazekage would not see it coming because Sasori knew he would probably lose a direct confrontation. Slowly, Sasori began to poison the water supply granted to the Kazekage and also his family. He did that by using the same jutsu he used on Kabuto to control him, but he used that on a girl, a servant of the Kazekage. She would bring the poisoned water day after day, but there was a trick. The poison quantity in the water was so minute, it was undetectable, and it was also a new style of poison created by Sasori, which was never seen before, so they wouldn't even know how to detect. The poison had no taste, it had no color, and it seemingly had no effect, but Sasori knew that over a long period of time, that specific poison would build up within the Kazekage's body, and his abilities would diminish drastically. Over these months, the Kazekage began to feel ill, but as he was the strongest shinobi in the village, he couldn't demonstrate he was not so good. He had to fake a facade of strength, so he never even told anyone about this illness he was feeling, about this illness he got, which Sasori knew would be the case and really exploited the Kazekage's ego and willingness to make sure his village would see him as powerful. When Sasori knew the Kazekage was weak enough, he assaulted his quarters and kidnapped him. It was a surprise attack. Sasori managed not to call any attention to it. It was quick. Naturally, he used more of his poisons, which made the Kazekage completely useless in battle. He couldn't even move, and then Sasori took him away. He then transformed the third Kazekage into his most prized puppet and used it to wreak havoc against his enemies. Though Sasori knew that anyone who saw the third Kazekage puppet could not leave the battle alive. After all, this was his biggest secret, his masterpiece. However, the eternity granted by the puppets wasn't something Sasori was satisfied with because he himself wouldn't live forever and he would not be able to see his art through time. To solve that problem, he came to a very brilliant conclusion. He had to turn himself into a puppet. But this was easier said than done. The process of making a living puppet wasn't terribly difficult. In theory, he could transform his own body into a puppet, but that would require him to die, which wasn't something he was willing to do. No, he wanted to live and see his art. So Sasori went researching, and after a couple of years of traveling and looking around for things that could make one immortal, he caught wind of a faraway kingdom. A kingdom ruled by an immortal king that apparently hadn't died for ages. And this is a very interesting thing because, you know, this map right here, the standard Naruto world map, this isn't the entire world. It's only what we get in the manga so we can see the story unfold here. But there's much more to the Naruto world. This is what the map actually looks like. And this right here in the map is the area we're used to. But Sasori caught wind of this kingdom far away called the Coral Kingdom and the Immortal King. He immediately traveled there, trying to discover what could make him immortal. They weren't a country of shinobis, no, but they were warriors. They used chakra to enhance their physical capabilities and also create crystal-like armor to defend themselves. Before we continue the story, I would like to talk about today's sponsor, Squarespace, which is the best tool you can ever find to create your own website. And we know that in this day and age, having a website for your business or even for whatever you want to do online is very important. Squarespace provides you all the web design tools for you to create your own website. It's very impressive. You don't need to have any expertise with web design to make a professional looking website with Squarespace. And if you don't want to create your own website from scratch, another impressive thing is how easily you can simply sell what you have to sell in their website. Products, services, even content. So don't waste any time. Head to the link down below and use the coupon Daigonite for 10% off in your first Squarespace purchase. And let's get back to the video. Sasori quickly found out that the king was a recluse man that never left his castle. He tried to get an audience with the king, but he never got one. He was never granted anything in that country. They kinda hated him. He was an outcast, but that wasn't really an issue for him. And after being denied several times, Sasori was exiled from the country because he became an annoyance. It's at this moment that Sasori thought about a plan to actually make the king talk to him. It wouldn't be easy, but Sasori had over 100 puppets to his disposal. He just had to learn how to use all of them at the same time. Because if he could do that, then those idiots wouldn't stand a chance, would they? Sasori managed to develop so much of his chakra control that instead of only using one thread of chakra per finger, he managed to use 10, increasing the number of puppets he could use to 100. And then he attacked the Coral Kingdom. This is the story Sasori refers to in the fight against Chiyo and Sakura when the 100 puppets managed to raid and conquer an entire kingdom. The Coral Warriors were no match for Sasori's ability to control an army of puppets. They fight gallantly and even defeated several of the puppets. However, Sasori scourged the Coral Kingdom. Whenever he passed through a city, the puppets laid waste to it. They leveled them. He wasn't even interested in conquering the kingdom or anything. He just wanted the information the king had to offer. When Sasori reached the capital, then he raided a castle the king lived in, and the king fought against Sasori. It was a tough, difficult fight. The king managed to take out several of the puppets and even injured Sasori himself. But at the end of the day, Sasori's puppets prevailed. The fight destroyed the entire castle, and the city suffered the scars. Many civilians died, as well as the warriors, that's for sure. Sasori got what he wanted. The information. How was that king immortal? The king told him everything. He acquired a strange-looking coral in his youth. A coral that had immense chakra properties. He did so when diving to hunt for pearls in the coast of his kingdom and found this strange living thing, but he could sense the powerful chakra oozing from it. The king was a very curious man. He knew this was a powerful thing he found. He took it back to his home and experimented with it. The king then did something very mad, one could say. He carved a hole in his thigh and implanted that into him to see what would happen. Nothing happened at first. Maybe he felt a little bit more powerful, but it was somewhat underwhelming. However, as time went by and the king saw his friends aging, he aged so much slower than them. He then realized it was probably the power of the coral. And then he began to train his chakra and his abilities to become a warrior. Soon enough, he acquired so much experience and followers that he took over the kingdom of corals and became the king. He would institute a new rule over the people and make the kingdom flourish. And that's what the king has been doing for the past 300 years or so, watching over the kingdom, being immortal. Naturally, Sasori didn't waste any time after hearing the story. He quickly snapped snatched the coral out of the king's thigh. The king immediately died, and the coral certainly had different properties that Sasori had never seen before. But just that wouldn't be enough. No, he needed something else. He needed to make sure his consciousness would be attached to the coral because his body would no longer be organic, if that makes sense. Sasori only knew one clan that could have a powerful sealing jutsu to attach someone's consciousness into something else. The Uzumaki clan, of course. The best sealers of the Naruto-verse. So, Sasori traveled to the ruins of the Uzumaki clan in the land of whirlpools. He hoped to find a sealing jutsu there hidden somewhere, powerful enough to make sure his consciousness wouldn't be lost whenever Sasori transformed his own body into a puppet. After digging deep into the ruins, he found a scroll of a jutsu that would suit his needs perfectly. It wasn't easy to learn, however. He figured those Uzumakis were geniuses in the sealing arts because that was tough. But Sasori managed. He used this Uzumaki sealing jutsu to attach his own consciousness into this piece of the coral, creating what we see in the manga, this weird tube-looking thing that's actually the only living part Sasori has, and he could use that living part to transfer his consciousness onto other puppets, not only his real body puppets. And after transferring the consciousness to this thing, Sasori used another puppet imbued with it to transform his body into the living puppet, just like he did to the Third Kazekage. After the body became a puppet, he put the living core back into his real body, and then we get the Sasori we know and love. The Sasori that transformed his own body into a puppet, and that had to conquer, or more precisely, raid an entire country using his 100 puppets in order to achieve said feat. Watch this other video right here to learn about the hidden story of the strongest Uchiha of all time. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't so already. If you want to check out the sources where I found all this stuff about Sasori, check the description down below, everything's there, and thank you so much for watching.